So let's go to section 2 around some marketing trends. Um, there are several things happening in 2014. It's a very exciting year, actually, for marketing and companies and marketers, because there are some key things happening around content and website development, search engine optimization, and social media that together are really reshaping how people are going to find out about your trips, how they're going to share that information with others, and what kinds of content you are able to access to push out to folks looking for information. Those key elements off the top are that mobile users now are a very high and growing percentage of your visitor traffic. In the US, we know for various kinds of adventure companies, they're 20 to 50% of visitor traffic. We also know that that number is growing rapidly, and depending on the location of where the person is, whether they're already at the adventure destination or whether they're planning a trip, that number is going to shift. Mobile users will become much, much greater as a percent if they're already in your vacation destination. Voice search is now very common thanks to the smartphone really explosion of use. And what that means, in contrast to keyword search, which is declining, is that Google and Apple in the iPhone world, Apple bought Siri. Apple didn't actually invent Siri. So Google and Apple are working very hard to develop effective search based on a conversational tone. So no longer are we looking to optimize the words Colorado rafting. In fact, we're looking to optimize great rafting trips for little kids close to Denver. And that's a different set of terms and ways to optimize a page, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Social networks, as we all know, unless we are dinosaurs or we are cavemen or women, or we've been in long hibernation, are now primary information sources. And we can't ignore that, and we can use that to our benefit. Related to social networks are customer-generated content. Customer-generated content on these social networks, one of the biggest of which, of course, is TripAdvisor. This kind of content and these networks have a huge impact on travel operators, and we need to make sure we're on top of those channels, we're responding to those channels, and if we ignore them, it is at our company's peril. Let's chat a little bit about mobile use. I do see that this is an opportunity for us to practice imperfection in all of its beauty. This is a mobile phone user table that is global, but for total mobile users worldwide, it's impressive. We're almost at 70% mobile use. And that's in contrast to smartphone, which we'll get to in the next slide. Of course, Western Europe, North America, Central and Eastern Europe are somewhat similar in terms of their mobile and smartphone adoption. Some of the lower income large countries, areas in Latin America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and Africa will have lower adoption. But clearly there are places in Latin America and Asia Pacific, for example, that have very high adoption. Within the mobile phone market, smartphone use is approaching 50% worldwide. The smartphone, of course, is the phone where you can go to the internet and look up all kinds of information, and you have apps to make your life easier where you can quickly and directly feed into certain websites for shopping, research, etc. And as we see here, that 50%, almost 50% of mobile phone users across the entire world are in fact using smartphones, and that's almost 35% of the population. Here's an example of what a mobile optimized site looks like. Many of you already know this. This is a screenshot of a smartphone on the left and a tablet on the right. It happens to be an iPad screenshot, but of course it's similar across multiple tablets in size. And what we see is that websites, this is an example of a bike touring website from Macedonia, and what we see is that this website looks the same on the phone and the tablet as it does on the desktop. The problem is that the content has simply shrunk in size, making it more difficult to read. So it's not as user-friendly. Can they Can they find their way around? On the tablet, they can. It's not as effective, but they can. And on the smartphone, they're likely to go to a different site. That's the risk, is that people will leave. In contrast, this is an example of a website which is mobile optimized and is actually a responsive web design. So what that means is if you were to go to this website on a desktop, it would look different in size and layout than it does on the smartphone and the tablet. The left smartphone example, all of the formatting on that site has actually responded or moved into a column type format, one under the other, where the actual navigation is now a drop down. You can see adventure menu on it, and it's a drop down with other choices down below. So it's very easy to see at a larger size, and people can quickly find what they want. The tablet version is a slightly moved version of the desktop where the navigation at the top wraps around so that the size of it stays the same, and the elements down below are easily found. The whole idea behind this, of course, is that visitors, when they get to a mobile optimized site, will stay longer, and they'll be able to book their trip from a mobile device. Another important thing to note is that Google, who is still the 800-pound gorilla with 70% of search engine market share across the world, with the exception of China, they are very focused on responsive web designs specifically, and are penalizing sites with that are not mobilely optimized or responsive. They haven't quite started it yet, but they said that's what they're going to do. So it's important to get on making that adjustment. So in terms of the things that you guys can do to address these trends this year for your website is optimize your load time, because Google is penalizing slow loading sites as well as sites that are not optimized for mobile devices. Optimize your content where you're looking not at pure keyword-based search engine optimization, but you're looking at more casual voice search optimization where you have casual, natural, normal language content in the body of your page and in your page titles and tags. For social media, the content is so important. Fresh content to your website on a regular basis is important, and a blog is the best way to do that. Providing useful differentiating information is essential, and making sure your website is linked to social media and your posting on social media is pulling people back to your website, so there's links from social to your website.